Modern-day Turkey was founded on the principles set by Mustafa Kemal Ataturk, who implemented social, political, as well as economic reforms. Ataturk, who served as the first president from 1923 until he died in 1938, guided the fate of the country towards a parliamentary and secular system. For a country with a huge number of mosques and a majority of the Muslim population, this secular status was quite a contrast as well as an important factor.
Hello and Assalamualaikum to everyone. So my name is Mawan Raisha binti Abu Qasim Lais Mang Sanwin and my matrix number is 2021870044. So today I will explain to you about a little bit history of Turkey. So Turkey is a large peninsula that bridges the continents of Europe and also Asia. Turkey is surrounded on three sides by the Black Sea, the Mediterranean Sea and also the Aegean Sea. Istanbul is the largest city in Turkey. However, Ankara is the capital city of Turkey. Turkey is built on land is the Bosporus Seaway. The city is partly in Europe and partly in Asia. Turkey is larger than the state of Texas. And also, Turkey is situated at the crossroad of the Balkans, Caucasus, Middle East, and also Eastern Mediterranean. Now we will discuss about the major problems occur in Turkey. Number one, it is about runaway inflation. Runaway inflation affects the collapsing lira. It has pushed millions of Turks that bring financial ruin and slam factories, farmers, and retailers across the country. Secondly, Turkish banks are struggling to attract international investors to take on their swelling rents of non-performing loans amid different views on valuations and concerns over economic and political uncertainty in the country. Sales of Turkish non-performing loans of NPLs have slumped since 2019, while the level of distressed debt in bank system has continued to grow according to an S&P Global Market Intelligence analysis. And lastly, the problems that occur in Turkey is about the economic slowdown and surging inflation, which S&P Global rating forecasted average 70% in 2022 and 40% in 2023. Will put more pressure on banks to tackle and resolve bad debt issues, especially in their corporate loan banks.
Next, I will explain about macroeconomics issues in Turkey, which is inflation. So, inflation is a rise in prices, which can be translated as the decline of purchasing power over time. The rate at which purchasing power drops can be reflected in the average price increase of a basket of selected goods and services over some period of time. The rise in prices, which is often expressed as a percentage, means that a unit of currency effectively buys less than it did in prior periods. Inflation can be contrasted with deflation, which occurs when prices decline and purchasing power increases. The modern economic theory categorizes three main causes of inflation. There are three types of inflation, which is demand pull inflation, cost pull inflation, and monetary inflation. So first, I will explain about the demand pull inflation. So, demand pull inflation is a tenet of Keynesian economics that describes the effects of an imbalance in aggregate supply and demand. When the aggregate demand in an economy strongly outweighs the aggregate supply, prices go up. This is the most common cause of inflation. In Keynesian economic theory, an increase in employment leads to an increase in aggregate demand for consumer goods. In response to the demand, companies hire more people so that they can increase their output. The more people firms hire, the more employment increases. Eventually, the demand for consumer goods outpaces the ability of manufacturers to supply them. Next is cost push inflation theorizes that as costs to producers increase from things like rising wages, these higher costs are passed on to consumers. Demand pull inflation takes the position that prices rise when aggregate demand exceeds the supply of available goods for sustained periods of time. Cost push inflation is the decrease in aggregate supply of goods and services stemming from an increase in the cost of production. Cost push inflation means prices have been pushed up by increases in the cost of any of the four factors of production of labor, capital, land, or entrepreneurship when companies are already running at full production capacity. The last one, monetary inflation. Monetary inflation is a sustained increase in the money supply of a country or a currency area. Depending on many factors, especially public expectations, the fundamental state and development of the economy, and the transmission mechanism, it is likely to result in price inflation, which is usually just called inflation, which is a rise in the general level of prices of goods and services. There is general agreement among economists that there is a causal relationship between monetary inflation and price inflation, but there is neither a common view about the exact theoretical mechanism and relationships, nor about how to accurately measure it. This relationship is also constantly changing within a larger complex economic system.
The annual inflation rate in Turkey fell to a 9-month low of 64.3% in December 2022 from 84.4% in the previous month, and compared to the market forecast of 66.5%. Costs advanced at a softer pace in all components. Food prices were 99% higher than the same period last year. Housing rose by 85% and transport was up to 170%. The Turkish Statistical Institute reported that the domestic producer price index shows a 157.69% increase annually, was up to 7.83% on a monthly basis. The monthly rise in consumer prices was 3.54%. The dramatic rise in living costs for the country of 85 million has continued unabated for nearly 2 years in tandem with significant devaluation of Turkey's currency, the lira. Controversially, Turkey's President Recep Tayyip Erdogan refused to raise interest rates, insisting that it will harm the economy. Economists and critics say his policy have continued to hurt the lira, push inflation up, fomenting a currency crisis.
Assalamualaikum. My name is Nur Izzati Nabila binti Nur Islan. My matrix number is 2021212274 and I'm from KBA 118 3D. So today I will explain to you about the causes of inflation in Turkey. First, Turkey Economic Confidence Index dropped for a second straight month to 86.4 points in December, reflecting a surge in coronavirus cases that brought curfews, weekend lockdowns, and restaurant closures, according to official data. Foreigners do not have confidence that Turkey economy is stable because they think Turkey economy is shaky, like the currency is not high, people are afraid to invest, there is no exchange of foreign currency. As a result, the Turkish economy becomes inflationary because the value of the currency is falling. Foreigners will think that Turkey is not suitable country for them to invest. Second, Turkey economic problem because President Erdogan insisted on lowering interest rates in the face of galloping inflation, precisely the opposite tactic of what economists almost universally prescribe. President Erdogan lowered the interest in the effect of that matters is that it will make people life easier, but on the other hand, it will cause the income in a country to decrease. When the country has less income, the country cannot pay the outstanding debt because the country cannot obtain much income from taxes and interest.
Hi, my name is Nur Shaira Aina binti Muhammad Shamsul Anwar. My student ID is 2021490548. Today, I would like to share about the effect of inflation in Turkey. The effect of inflation in Turkey. One of the main impact of inflation in Turkey is Turkish lira dramatically has lost value against USD in recent years, and this situation gave rise to an increase in raw materials price. Thus, domestic products price had risen but wage did not rise identically. Agriculture production has been almost finished because of government policies. Farmers are going to big cities or went to because they cannot make profit and costs are extremely high to farm, especially fuel oil. In this case, Turkey has started importing vast amount of agriculture products for the first time from all over the world. Next is the consumer prices increased by 78.6% last month compared to June 2021. Driven by the soaring cost of food, drink, and transportation. Food prices have almost doubled in a year, while the cost of transport was up to 128%, according to data from the Turkish Statistical Institute.
So now, let's move to the public policy to reduce inflation. What is the government policy implemented by Turkey to control macroeconomics issue there? So there are three types or methods to control inflation. Number 1, fiscal policy. Number 2, monetary policy. And number 3, direct control measures. So, Turkish used the fiscal policy in order to control the macroeconomics there. Now I will explain to you the definition of fiscal policy. Fiscal policy is when the government either cuts spending or raises taxes. It gets its name from the way it contracts the economy. It reduces the amount of money available for businesses and consumers to spend. Fiscal policy is when elected officials either cut spending or increases taxes. It is disliked by voters who want to keep government benefits. The unpopularity of contractionary policy increases the budget deficit and national debt. When government cuts spending or increases taxes, it takes money out of consumers' hands. The government of Turkey decides to cut subsidies, transfer payments including welfare programs, contracts for public works, or the number of government employees. Shrinking the money supply decreases the demand. It gives consumers less purchasing power, and that reduces business profit, forcing companies to cut employment. Now, there are two types of fiscal policy, which is contractionary fiscal policy and also expansionary fiscal policy. Contractionary fiscal policy is when the government gives taxes more than it spends. And expansionary fiscal policy is when the government spends more than the taxes. Two major examples of expansionary fiscal policy are tax cuts and increased government spending. Both of these policies are intended to increase aggregate demand while contributing to deficits or drawing down budget surpluses. The tools that they use for fiscal policies is taxes and also spending. Taxes influence the economy by determining how much money the government has to spend in certain areas and how much money individuals should spend. For example, if the government is trying to spur consumer spending, it can decrease taxes. A cut in taxes provides a family with extra cash, which the government hopes will in turn to spend on goods and services, thus spurring the economy as a whole. Spending is used as a tool for fiscal policy to drive government money to specific sectors needing an economic boost.
In conclusion, Turkey is facing one of the biggest obstacles in order to become economically advanced nation, inflation. President Recep Tayyip Erdogan believes that higher interest rates will lead to more inflation and lowering the interest rates will be better for the economy. This view goes against the established economic principle followed by most countries. Erdogan believes that encourage the people to spend more locally will grow the economy. However, he has reduced interest rates to facilitate his facilities and unmitigated inflation eventually will affect local Turkish households as their earnings may not be able to keep with rising price of items. This will also lead to international investors not being confident in the viability of the Turkish economy, which will further accelerate the implosion of their economy.